Ladies and gentlemen, my listening faithful, welcome back to another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. With us this week, I feel that we have one hell of an episode. Everything from great audio quality to just a great conversation. In this podcast, we will be joined by Jed, Brian, and Nate of KLUK Custom Calls. And guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to bring you this episode. I had an absolute blast with these guys at the KLUK Custom Calls workshop. And in this episode, we're able to talk a good bit about turkeys, a couple great stories, getting to know the guys, and lastly, but not least, KLUK Custom Calls as a whole, and really the mission that they are going for over there. I really can't stress to you enough how much you should take some time and check out their website and see what they are all about. The guys are very knowledgeable and more than willing to help you get that bird you've been chasing. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to them at any social media platform. And check out their website at klukcustomcalls.com. Also, if you have anything for me, as always, don't be afraid to reach out. Greatly appreciate all the support and love. Remember to go over, subscribe, comment, and like on Apple Podcast and Spotify apps. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as we did. Thank you, and God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. This week, I am joined with KLUK Custom Calls. I got three dudes here that are going to drop a lot of good knowledge on us here and promote what they're doing here at KLUK. So we're all sitting down together. This is really exciting because I always talk about how good the audio quality is sitting down with people. And I'm here in the shop, and we're gonna do a little turkey talk. So if you guys could just do an introduction, let's go around the room. And Jed, if we could start with you, just who you are, kind of how you got into turkey hunting, if you want to pay homage to anybody before you.
Hi guys, I'm Jed Pronish. I've been in this game since I was probably 12, watching the ESPN shows on Sunday night. There was a little clips there that they had some turkey hunting, and I first saw Rob Keck. Watched a little bit of the National Wild Turkey Federation show, and they did a special with some of the top callers from the country at that time, and I saw that and I was just wowed. I was like, I gotta get into this. And I didn't have any immediate family members that were in any type of turkey hunting, so it was kind of, figure this out on your own. So from there, I bought my first call, and my goal was I wanted to sound as much like a turkey as I possibly could. And I made it my goal to get, not only do I want to fool turkeys, I want to fool a good ear of a man. Mm-hmm. And that's helped give me a good drive. If you can fool a very good turkey hunter's ear, you're doing something pretty good.
Right. Yeah, I know I have seen some competitions and stuff where guys are turkey calling, and like I was talking about before we come on, like I am a turkey hunting and I'm a hunter and I'm really into turkey hunting, but you guys take it to the next level, and I think that guys like you set the precedence for other guys in our area to be a better caller. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, let's continue introductions, and we'll get back to what KLUK's all about here.
Yeah, so I'm Brian Meese, co-owner of KLUK, and I got my start into turkey hunting when I was about 12 years old. Took the hunter safety course, and we weren't allowed to hunt turkey, before that age back then. And same thing, I didn't have any. My parent, my dad didn't hunt. My grandfather hunted a little bit, but never took me hunting. Never turkey hunted anyways. And my cousin Jeff Sodmont, he's the one that kind of, really sparked my interest, and he's the one that just got me into hunting in general. And he took me out, and I remember that first year, especially deer hunting actually, and I missed so many deer, and I was like ready to quit because I was embarrassed how many times I kept on missing. And so then he took me, that was in the fall, and the spring came along, and had my first encounter with 3 jakes that came up this logging road that I did not see come up, and from 3 yards away, and I missed my first turkey at 3 yards. And ever since then, I've been hooked. And my brother, he's a big turkey hunter also, and as I got a little bit older, I think when I was really young, 12, 13, he was 18 or 19, right, somewhere around there, and he didn't really care to hang out with me. And then as I got older, we became hunting buddies, right, as I got older, and so we still do some hunting together. And I take out his kids, and he'll take out my kids if one of us are in a pinch and stuff like that. And that's kind of that's really where I got my turkey hunting beginnings from. And it's, for me now, it's so much, it's not even about killing the turkey anymore. It's more so about taking other people out and, right, and teaching them the ropes, and just, for me, like, deer hunting is more rewarding when you kill a giant buck, but when you go turkey hunting, it's just fun. So
yeah,
I like trying to get anybody I can get out there to on a turkey hunt.
I can agree and attest to your statement. And it's really funny, and it's something that we always bring up on the show about there's nothing that I've done in my life that is comparable to the camaraderie that you get from hunting and being in the outdoors. Mm-hmm. That's why, I played the sports, I did that, and you get your teammates, and, your teammates for life and all that stuff. But like, there's nothing like, I don't want to say killing something together, because that's not what I'm really getting at, but like, there's nothing like being part of that process, mm-hmm, together. And just the adrenaline rush alone it's unexplainable, really. When you take somebody out, you're like, well, you just don't understand. And they're like, oh, well, tell me about it. Well, like, we could sit here and talk about, mm-hmm, it. But unless there's people that are listening that know what we're talking about, then it's really hard to explain. But
well, like you said, it's the camaraderie of it, and then the memories you're making,
right?
Right.
Yep. So how about you, Nate? Let's keep going around the table here.
My name is Nate Burkhart, and I'm a co-owner of KLUK. Kind of got my start just being in the outdoors in general. I liked everything about it, the woods and deer hunting, fishing, you right, name it. So it kind of just fell in line with everything that I like to do. And my uncle Matt, he used to take me hunting a lot when I was younger, primarily turkey hunting, because he was a big turkey hunter. So I can definitely thank him for that. And but yeah, I can remember being a young kid and like going out with him, and our styles are a little different. He's a way more patient turkey hunter, and I'm a little bit more aggressive as I've gotten older.
Right.
But I can remember just like sitting with him, and here in Pennsylvania, we can only hunt till noon.
Right.
At least for half of the season. But I think back then you could only hunt till noon the entire length of the season.
Yeah. Yep.
So like I can remember like going out and sitting with him by a tree from like, sun up till noon, and it was like, and like
it was like deer hunting.
Yeah, and like that's what we did. But like you'd go out, and you'd have. I can remember like a hen coming by, and you just like were like shaking so bad, like the leaves were moving, and
right.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I got my hook with it. I can remember like one time, and there were more times, but I can remember one, like the first time I ever saw a strutting turkey. Like we're sitting there by that tree, and it was gobbling off the back of the field, and then it came out into the field and puffed up, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like it was the first time I ever experienced that. And right. I don't remember how old I was, probably 12, something like that. So, mm-hmm. And you could have been 10 yards away hearing me shaking the leaves at that moment, but that's definitely what hooked me.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to do introduction to my turkey hunting story real quick before we get into it. It's kind of funny. I went with my dad, and we called a turkey in, and it was like, turkey flew down, turkey come in, bang, shoot turkey. I'm like, well, this is awesome. I don't understand why most people can't kill turkeys, right? Yeah. And then the season after came, and it was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And what it was during the youth season, my dad had taken out my other cousins, and they slammed a couple birds on the property, and the birds moved a little bit. And I called my buddy, and he's always killing turkeys, and he said, all right, yeah, just be ready to go in the morning. We'll go. I'll take you. I know where there's a good flock at. And I said, okay. And he said, just make sure you bring your tennis shoes. And I said, what the hell do I need tennis shoes for? Well, you're about to learn. And we pulled in, and I'm like, okay, this is a whole different form run. And I had a lot of fun doing it. And that was just something I was never taught. and there's plenty of different ways to turkey hunt, but I want to, before we get into any tactics or talking about bird hunting or anything like that, I want to get right into KLUK and what we're doing here. What you guys have put on here and what you guys are shooting for. So if any of you guys want to take it away right away, let's just talk about, we're making calls. What kind of calls are we making?
Yeah, so we're doing diaphragm calls, pot calls, our box calls. We're really known for our diaphragm calls, and something that we offer that nobody else does, and our competitors they don't do it. We offer every one of our calls in 3 different stretches, and when I started building calls about 5 years ago, and Jed's actually the one that got me into building. He was building his own calls, and I think he was probably tired of me calling him. So, we weren't really buddies. I'd say we were buddies, but we weren't close
right.
back then. And I was constantly calling him, just, hey Jed, can you make me some calls, and so
I didn't mind it at all, buddy.
I appreciate that. But so, we learning from him how to build calls, and Jed likes a loose call, a low stretch call is what we call it. And it wasn't until I started building for myself where I started, playing with the different stretches. And I began to move to a much higher stretch at one time, and now I've actually moved the other way again, back down to a lower stretch. But the having that call and finding that right stretch on a call is very important. And there's just so many guys that I think don't like a call, and they think it's the call, just the call at the company, or it's not making a good call, but it's actually most of the time it's the stretch. It's not the right stretch for the guy. And offering the 3 different stretches, we're trying to bridge that gap and let guys figure out what stretch they're most comfortable with and what they sound the best with. And then from there, once you find a stretch you like, then you can go on and buy another one of our calls and that same stretch.
Yeah. So what, as far as stretching, what does that do, right? What inside of a mouth call, when the stretch is different, does that change the tone? Does that change the sound? What is going to change if I had a call stretched more than another call, right?
Go ahead, Jed. You want to answer that one?
Yeah, I feel like you're a good one to take this.
Well, I do think that there's a little bit of a misconception with, if you have guys that, they buy the starter pack, and if they have one of each stretch and they say, oh, I like a low stretch or I like a medium stretch, that's a good basis for them to say, okay, well, the most of my calls from here on out, I want to stick with a medium stretch. But I think there's certain calls or certain types of calls that you can do that, you might really like to yelp on a low stretch, but if you want to get into some, cluck and purrs or something different, a tighter call, what I've found anyway for me, and that's the hard part, is everybody is different. Your mouth is different than mine, so there's no cut and dry thing here. But for me personally, and I think it's probably a good portion of callers, I think if you step up your tension a little bit, it actually helps some of your lighter calling, make that a little easier. With a loose call, you have to manipulate your tongue a little bit, and that's why I like a loose call. You can use your tongue sort of as a tuning fork, and you can manipulate your pitches and tones that way. But I find it pretty hard to cluck and purr with a really, you got loose stretched latex there that's kind of flapping. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get it to purr, but it's not a very realistic sounding purr. So the different stretches, obviously do more than just say, hey, there's a guy that needs a loose stretch. You can have a guy that's using a high, medium, and low, to cover the whole gamut of any turkey vocabulary.
Yeah, and that's something, I'd piggyback off of that and say, a lot of guys, they think when they buy, we call them a starter package, and it's the same exact cut, same latex, same cut, but you'll have a low stretch, a medium stretch, and a high stretch. And we'll have a lot of guys that they just think that only one of those calls is going to work for them. And that's not the case. You know, you can run all 3 calls.
Right.
They're all going to sound turkey, but you know, for me, when I'm, especially like in a hunting situation, I like to find a stretch of a call that I can kind of do everything on, you know, instead of having to change calls. Like, I don't want to be, you know, say I'm using a low stretch to yelp on, and that's usually, you know, my go-to. But I don't want to have to take that call, you know, say a gobbler answers me and he comes running right in, you know, I'm not going to take my call out and then have to, you know, start trying to purr, you know. Right. So I like to find that happy medium where I'm able to kind of do a little bit of everything, especially in a hunting situation, you know, and Jed being like in the competitions, you know, so those guys, as they're in the competitions, I mean, if you ever watch the scenarios going on, I mean, they're, you know, 5 different calls in their hand or whatever, and they're putting one in, and I mean, it's amazing what they can do. Yeah. But, you know, and like he said, not every one of those calls, they might be different cuts, but not every one is you know, exactly stretched the same either.
Right.
If you can get that call that does cover it, you know, it's a benefit, especially in the contest scene, because, you know, you have to paint a picture. You're putting a scenario out there. Judges don't want to hear dead space in there. You know, they want to have it be a pretty consistent show. But then also in the woods too, you know, if you have a call that covers everything or covers a bulk of the sounds, that's less movement in the woods. That's less, you know, it's just sit down, hunt, and don't worry about fumbling through a bunch of different calls.
Right.
Yeah, so like I'm like the perfect example of like somebody this has helped, because my whole life growing up, like, you know, I would just buy a call and use it. And half of my career of turkey hunting, you could say, like, I didn't even know what the difference in the cuts. Like, I just bought a call because it looked cool and I'd try it, you know.
Cool packaging.
Yeah, like, that looks cool. I'm going to try it. And I had so many calls over the years that I was just like, this just isn't good, you know. Like, you could buy 10 to have one that sounds really good. And, you know, so now, like, we can kind of attribute that one call to just being probably stretched good for me, you know. Like, that call was where I needed it to be. And like, but like, so like I was a turkey hunter, and guys always say, like, you don't have to be the best caller to kill a turkey. And that's like totally true. You know what I mean? Like, you could go out and rub 2 sticks together, and if it makes turkey sound, you could kill a turkey. You know what I mean? That's totally true. But like, you know, when I started here with Brian and you know, knowing Jed and stuff with KLUK, it really opened my eyes to like the world of turkey calling and like the art behind turkey calling. So I'm going to sit here and say that, like, you have turkey hunting and then you have turkey calling.
Okay.
So they're in like a world of, now naturally, like, a guy that's good at turkey calling is probably going to be able to go out and kill a turkey because, you know, he's going to know what they sound like, what they do, and he's going to be able to call them in.
Right.
But like, they're 2 pages of their own. So you can't sit and be like, well, you're, you know, this competition turkey caller, he's good, but I bet he can't kill a turkey. It's like, you can't think like that. You got to be like, you know, we can go out and turkey hunt, and that turkey calling style is nothing like when Jed's on the stage competitively calling. That's, you know, he's doing that to show and to imitate, and he's trying to sound like a turkey. So mosquitoes flying around.
Save that for later. I'll put it on a raw.
Yeah, we had the door open too long, but yeah. So like, you know, he's trying to sound as much like a turkey as he possibly can. Right. And that's why he's going through the whole scenario of like the tree yelps, the fly downs, the yelps, you know, like everything. And so it's kind of like a misconception there between the 2.
Yeah, and you see, you know, if you're watching the Grand Nationals on TV, and you see some of the comments going down through, and you know, you have so many guys that, like you said before, like, oh, I bet he can call good. I bet he can't kill a turkey though. Right. And like, that's, I mean, I don't know many of those competition guys, but I mean, they're all turkey hunters.
I
mean,
that's where they're
get their start.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, that whenever I hear that comment there, that drives me nuts, because I mean, you know, they're great callers, and they're probably great turkey hunters and great woodsmen, you know, and, you know, usually as a turkey hunter, you usually are a better woodsman.
Right.
Yeah, so you just can't. It's hard to put the two of them together because I think it's really two different playbooks. But I kind of went down a rabbit hole. I was talking earlier about like when I opened or came through with KLUK, or joined Brian with KLUK. I was like what we would call like an air blower, and that's like your average turkey caller, like the average
95% of the guys.
Yeah, like your average, guy that's out in the woods is blowing air. And like when we say blowing air, it means you're just like taking in a breath and you're blowing the air just from your mouth, and you're doing like those old videos where you'd see like guys would explain like call a turkey by like chalk, 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 or something like that. So you're just like, that's air blowing. But they have taught me about, calling from your diaphragm, and like a lot of times like in videos that we, post and to social media and things, it's huffing, and you're like bringing the air up from your diaphragm, kind of like you're like fogging up a window. Like if you were to fog up a window and, and then write your name in it, that's kind of what you're doing, but turkey calling. So for me coming into this game, I was an air blower, didn't really know what stretch I was supposed to be or anything, didn't really know anything about it. And, through the progress of it, I've been learning, and like, being able to be here in the shop and build different calls, I can, I've been fortunate to find the stretch that works best for me. And I'm definitely like, like a medium to a high stretch guy when you're coming down our category of calls. And it's really taken me to call, my calling to the next level. Did I kill turkeys before? Yeah, but do I sound more like a turkey now? Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. And, I think a lot of guys need to just, experience it. And everybody wants to sound as much like a turkey as you possibly can.
Right.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal is, like, that was your opening statement. You wanted to sound like a turkey, and, I didn't get that until a few years back where I, when you learn to call from your diaphragm, that's when you're able to make that two-tone yelp, that high front end that breaks over into some rasp, the way a turkey does it.
Right.
And, once you start to make more, realistic turkey sounds, that's when you really start to, keep on getting deep, diving deeper and deeper into this game of turkey calling. But at heart, I'm still a turkey hunter. That's my favorite thing to do. I'm not doing competitions or anything like that,
right. Yeah,
But
you just want to practice your talents out in the woods and see how far you can get with a bird.
Yes, and it's something to add on what Nate was saying, too, about blowing air. I remember for years, you were trying to get me onto batwing calls, and whenever the way I was just blowing air, I wasn't calling from my diaphragm, I would constantly have a batwing. I don't know if you're familiar with the type of cut that is, but the flap would constantly flip up on me, and then it would squeak, and it was because of the way I was blowing the air. But as soon as I learned to call from my diaphragm, it was completely different. I was able to control the call, a lot better. And, that's my go-to call now as a batwing, 95% of the time.
There's something else in there too. If you think about it, if you're not using a call that is suited to you, I think you can gain and then carry on bad habits. The nice part is you have the multiple stretch. When you find that, calling should not be laboring. And, you go by calls, you don't know what cut you want, you don't know what stretch you're at. And if you buy calls that aren't suited for you, you're going to gain bad habits. And then, how do you break them? You don't know. With this, you can find that stretch, get it to where calling is comfortable for you, and then you can work on, you got to work on calling with the diaphragm and, finding the cut you like. And the biggest thing is listen to turkeys.
Yes.
Listen to real turkeys, and you'd be amazed, and a lot of guys can probably attest to that. If you're ever hunting with a guy, or you may have even seen it on video, if you hear a guy calling and then a real hen comes in and starts calling, the guy that's calling, all of a sudden his calling just goes up a level or two because you have that instant reaction. You're hearing what that hen's doing, and it makes your calling better.
Yep,
it
absolutely.
really does. So, if you're going to practice, if you want to get better, listen to turkeys and just, mimic their cadence or pitches, all that. There's so much that you can cover.
Yeah, and I feel like I shouldn't say everybody, but most turkey hunters have experienced the point of that where, like, you're calling and all of a sudden this hen just starts yelping and then you imitate her. And and you're like, wow, I'm sounding pretty good, like I sound kind of like her, so I definitely agree with that. You know what I mean?
Just one more thing I wanted to add about on the actual calls themselves. There's a misconception that it's something we see on social media on comments all the time. Jed, he's one of the best callers in the world, and you'll have guys that'll say, well, that guy, he can put any call in his mouth and sound good.
Oh yeah,
and that's not the truth. I mean, no offense, but I've heard you on a ghost cut.
It's bad.
How about that ghost cut the other day?
Yeah, I'll even admit that.
We all struggle with ghost cuts right now, and we have so many guys asking us, do we have a ghost cut? Do we have a ghost cut? And maybe we should just throw something out there.
We're getting there.
We've been working on one for a while now, and we're just not getting the sounds out of the call we want. And and for me, I'm actually starting to get onto it a little bit, but it's not. I'm liking some of the soft stuff.
And I think that's the thing. We're just not.
It's not the cut for
ghost
us.
Cut.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just it.
Yeah, but for me again too, like a V cut isn't a cut that I like to run at all. And it's a great call. It's a lot of guys will love that call, and that's a call that I would recommend to a lot of guys that are just starting out because of everybody wants to be raspy, and that's a call that you can usually a V cut you can usually throw in your mouth, and if you're blowing air, it's going to sound raspy, but for me, again, trying to make that most realistic yelp as possible, I can't really get the sounds out of it. So for me, it's usually a batwing or the combo cut that I'm usually running. And then we did make a call. It's called like a modified ghost cut. It's got like a ghost in the middle, but we got some extra cuts on the sides, and I'm able to run that call pretty well too.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing. Like, that's like a big thing we do here in the shop is like we, every call that we have available on our website, like it's a call that we've run, and like we're not just like building a call to put it out there for everybody to use and it's potentially like not even that good. Like if someone said, oh, you should sell, like, for example, the ghost cut, well, we haven't found one we can run yet, so like we want to make sure whenever we put a call out there that it's user friendly, right, and everybody can use it. So that's that's pretty important to us.
And back to like the whole diaphragm thing too. Like there's calls though, like that if you're not using your diaphragm to call on, like back in the day, there were so many calls I threw away, and then I'm like, man, I was just blowing air. When I learned to call from my diaphragm, you learn that call wasn't a bad call.
Right.
So you're able to, that's why they call them diaphragm calls. A lot of guys call them mouth calls, but they're called diaphragm calls because you're bringing that air from down within. And
yeah, no, that's a great example. I think something that you guys have really good here is you have 3 really good turkey callers, okay? And what I'm getting to is, so a lot of places that make turkey calls, especially like small business, is like one guy that's really passionate about it. There's 3 of you here that are really passionate, so and you're not afraid to tell each other, hey, that sounds like shit.
Yeah,
actually, I think that happens quite often.
Right. So, that's how you do it, man. That's that's the proper way to do it. And I really appreciate and like how you guys aren't going to put something out there that you don't stand behind, right?
Yeah.
It's not user friendly, however you want to say it. Until you've perfected, or you can like lay it down in front of you and kind of look at it and say, son of a bitch, that thing sounds good, right? That's exactly what you stand for, and I can already see that and understand that. What about, is there anything with the reeds or anything like a triple reed or multiple reeds, or adding more or less that changes the call for you guys? I know the cuts are different. We were talking about like batwing and a V reed and some other stuff, but is there anything you guys wanted to touch on as far as that, or is it just a stretch?
Yeah, so most of our calls are 3 reed calls. We do have a few 2 reed calls. And the 2 reed calls just take a little bit less tension, or a little bit less air, from your diaphragm again, or if you're blowing air, they take a little bit less to make turkey sounds from it, But I think we carry 20 different calls right now, or 20. Is it 20 or 22?
Yeah, it's somewhere around there.
And most of them are all 3-reed calls, and I just feel like you can. Jed would probably be a really good one to ask this question, but because I have ran some 2-reed calls, but they're not. It's like they're lacking something.
They lack body. Like they're just, you can't really get on them.
Yeah.
The 3-reed call has like a more fuller sound,
Yeah.
like a chesty turkey sound, where the 2-reed call might be a little
Kind of
bit
flat almost.
Yeah.
I was actually there. We messed up the other day when they had 2 pieces of latex from whenever I was stacking latex for Nate to put them in the frames the other day, and he ended up pressing it on accident, and there's only a 2-reed call, and it was a batwing, so obviously it's junk. So I made it a batwing and threw it in my mouth, and I actually had it here right whenever you came down the lane here, and I was outside trying to just play with it a little bit, and as soon as I would try to get a little bit louder and get that volume up a little bit, I was the call was just like
bottom out.
Yeah.
But there is a place for them too. Like,
yeah,
would you say like
Cluck and purr.
Yeah, like some softer stuff, or maybe even just somebody just trying to get into turkey calling. Like, it's going to be a call that they can use and use very little air to make some sounds.
Right.
So like there's definitely a place for them.
And that's something too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that call way too loud when they're hunting,
Right.
And a 2-reed call can actually probably help you a little bit because you can't get too loud on it, and it'll make you, just become a little bit softer. Because there's a lot of times we hunt a lot of public land around here, and you hear guys just wrenching on his mouth calls, and I'm like, man, like that bird's within 50 yards of you, like you're gonna scare the daylights out of the thing.
She's shock gobbling.
Yeah, he probably is shock gobbling. I mean, it gets loud sometimes, and you just really have to. I don't know. The more and more you get into turkey hunting, you learn. There's so many things you learn about, and your calling styles and the volume of it and stuff like that.
So Jed, I'll start with you. How did Jed get good at turkey calling? Did you? Are you one of the guys that had turkeys growing up or something? Because I know some
weird.
Guys. Okay.
Tell him the story like you told me though about like sitting up on top of the hill above the high school.
Yeah. When I say that it was an obsession, like it was legit. It was. I don't even know how it happened. When you get obsessed about something, you don't control it.
Like drugs.
And my grandparents lived up above the local high school that I went to, and it's like a big, you have the school there with a big brick side, and there was a lot of open space, and I would sit up on the hill, and when you would call, the echo would go down and it would reverberate back, and I was like, you know what, it was really good for me to be able to hear that because it was telling me what I was doing. So I would sit up there. I would sit up there for hours, and I would just call. And one thing that I like to do, and I still to this day do it, I'll take a good box call, and I'll run it, and I'll try to mimic that box call because I think a box call is as close to a real sounding turkey as you can get. A good box call.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just, the neighbors probably hated me, but it's just what I did.
Right.
So then now, I'll get messages from my kids. I'll be sitting at the kitchen table or in the basement, and I'll get a text message that says, "Can you go outside?" or "Can you be quiet?" And it's like, no, I'm not going outside if it's 20 degrees out. Right?
Nate's the guy that has to listen to his wife whenever she says no more turkey calling in the house.
I do most of my turkey calling when I'm driving.
Which that's tough too, because you're in the cab of a truck or car or whatever, and you're not really getting good
proper acoustics.
Yep. And I know with me, I find that I can't hear very good to begin with. And if I start calling in the car, or if I call in a small room, like I struggle here.
This place
I
sucks.
hate calling in here.
Yeah.
And you try to manipulate a call based off, what you're hearing. And I'll find that after I've ridden in the car for 2 hours and run a call, then when I get out into a good building, I'm like, man, I'm out of tune. Like, I got to get back to what, because I think your ears adjust to what they think they're hearing.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
So,
yeah, it's for sure.
Yeah, the acoustics in here in our shop here, they're pretty bad. So we always, like, every time we run a call, we always step outside to run it to get the true sound of it.
I'm sure the neighbors love it.
Oh yeah,
we don't have too many neighbors around here.
Yeah.
We got a animal lover up there and a crazy one over there.
Okay.
So they're good guys.
All right.
We wave to each other once in a while.
Yeah, I think that if you guys want to touch on what you would recommend, like, there's a lot of guys that are just getting into turkey hunting, right? Or they have been turkey hunting for a while, but they want to get better. Most of us want to get better. Everybody sitting at this table wants to get better at turkey hunting for some form or some way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even just calling, because I know that there's some people that are going to listen to this episode that probably only just call, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. So what would be a recommendation that you guys would give out there to start that journey? Like, what does that look like? First of all, we're going to buy the starter pack from KLUK, right?
Absolutely.
Because we gotta do that. And then going from there, find a good spot, call to yourself. Do you guys recommend that they listen to a video? Do you know what I mean? Where should they go from there?
Yeah, I'll start off by, just saying there's so much information on YouTube nowadays. I mean, when we were coming up, we didn't have that.
Right.
I was fortunate, I came from a turkey hunting family where they were killing turkeys back in the 70s and stuff like that. The 80s, my uncles were, and my cousin, passed it on to my cousins. And, I told you my cousin Jeff's the one that kind of passed everything on down to me. And so I'm fortunate in that sense. But, with the way social media is out there right now, I would watch the Hunting Public and Dave Owens, the Pinhoti Project. I mean, they're two great turkey hunting shows. I mean, they're mostly hunting all public land, so it's not like they're
right.
I'm not, and I have nothing against the way anyone kills a turkey, but they're not hunting on field edges and stuff like that. And I would say, 99% of the birds we kill, I couldn't even tell you. The first bird I ever harvested was a field bird, and ever since then I've never killed a bird in the field again. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, they have great information. They're good callers. They're woodsmen, and that's I would say to be a good turkey hunter. Just becoming a good woodsman is number one. And boots on the ground when you're scouting. I don't know. Like, you don't want to. Again, that's my style of hunting. I'm not saying, like, you can go get a blind tomorrow at Walmart, put it in the middle of the field, put up some decoys, and
right.
There's a turkey that roosts in this tree every night, and he flies down into the field. And you don't have to make a call. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's not what the fun part about turkey hunting is communicating with that turkey. I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
Yeah, so like I would say, like our starter packs, you get the low, medium, high. So if you have any history at all with turkey calling, or if there's a cut that you have used in the past that you like, or even if you haven't, you can do some research. We have sound files up on our YouTube, and find something that maybe you want to try out, and get the starter package, and mess with all three calls. And like, the big thing is, a lot of times, like, when you've put a call in your mouth, you can generally tell right away if it's going to be good or not, but sometimes they do need to break in, like, so maybe give it some time, work with it, and get a sound that you like between the calls. And then I know I do it all the time, but like, I reach out to Jed and I'm like, hey, send me some turkey audio files, because his phone's loaded with it. So he'll like, text me over some real turkeys, audio, and I call with that audio to try and sound as close to that turkey as I can. And like, it's just trying to imitate it and testing different tongue pressures and how you're blowing the air across those reeds, and like, just do whatever you can to manipulate that call to try and sound as much like one of those wild turkeys as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's probably where I would start. And that's why, you know, like with the calls with the low, medium, high, like that's really going to help you, because one of them calls is going to sound closer to that wild turkey than another one, you know.
Something I just want to add to that real fast, though, you know, if you are going to purchase one of those starter packs off us, I recommend getting your favorite cut to start with. Don't look at one of our crazy cuts and be like, oh, I want to try that cut, you know, and then buy the starter package,
Right.
because you might absolutely hate that cut. You know what I mean? It might not just be for you. So I always recommend guys like, hey, just whatever your favorite call is, your favorite cut, whether it be a V cut, batwing, combo cut, buy one of our calls in one of those series first, you know, in the starter package, and try out that first before you move on to something crazier that you've never ran before.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good recommendation.
That way you figure out the stretch you like, and then whenever you figure out that stretch, then, you know, when you want to try out one of our crazy cuts, then that's whenever you buy that stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great starting point. And then also on top of that, you know, what I would add to that is, like, don't be afraid to mess up, because turkey hunting, I don't know anybody who just goes in the woods and shoots a 10.5-inch beard, you know, just because, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, it can happen. You know, I've heard of weird instances and things, you know, going somebody's way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the fact is, even not wearing gloves can mess up a turkey hunt. You know what I mean? There's so many things. Glasses. I know my dad's been busted for glasses.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
a glare right off the glasses and you're done.
And sometimes you can get away with it, and sometimes you don't.
you
You
can't.
know, so some guys will say you're crazy for saying that, but
Right.
you know, people have seen it before. You know,
Right. Exactly.
A shiny shotgun barrel, waving
Yeah.
around.
Like a shiny choke at the end,
Yeah.
probably be. Yeah. Anything can happen, but the biggest thing is, like, if you're out turkey hunting and it's in the morning and you hear them, you know, you're near a fly down and they come down and you call them in and the bird comes within 60 yards, but you just can't quite, you know, get that spot or that shot, and all of a sudden, you know, neck comes up and you know right away, you're son of a bitch, and they go, you know, don't get discouraged, just move.
You learn something that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, you learn from it. I would think, you know, the other thing that you would need to learn, and like you said, would be from a woodsmanship way. And I love the YouTube thing. The YouTube University is wonderful, and that's probably half the reason, or most of the reason why I have half the shit done at my house that I have done, you know, whether it's, you know, working with wood or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when it comes to hunting, there's too much lick it and stick it now. Like, and I just brought this up not too long ago about, like, the deer hunting thing. Like, oh, well, you know, first thing you want to do if you're hunting deer is go out and buy a trail camera. No. Like, you should know a little bit.
Boots on ground.
You got to get your boots on the ground.
Yeah.
You got to get your feet wet, and you need to make a mistake like that. I'm not saying that mistakes are the way to learn, because they're not always the way to learn, especially anybody who has an older brother. You know, like my younger brother got to learn a lot because I did a lot of stupid stuff, right? And he's seeing, like, oh, don't do that. Don't make that turn. Stay straight. So the messing up part, I think, for turkey hunting is really crucial, and especially being out there and witnessing, like, the sequence of things that, you know, that go down, you know, whenever you're close to that bird. Because most people that are new to turkey hunting, they probably never even heard a turkey purring or clucking.
No.
You know, when you have a hen that's clucking real light, and you're like, man, that's awesome. You know, and like you said, you can listen to turkey files, and that's a great way to do it without, you know, having to go and make a mistake. So yeah, I would recommend just get out there and try it. Or if you're really lucky and you can get a mentor, I can't think of a better way to hunt than with a mentor.
Yeah.
That's something
yeah.
I was going to say that I left out. You know, I did mention, like, the social media stuff, but if you can find somebody that knows how to hunt turkey, I mean, pick their brain.
Yep.
You know, ask them to go out with you. You know, they're obviously, like, a lot of guys don't like to take you to their spots, but, you know, if you have your own spots, and I'm that way. You know, if I'm tagged out, I'm looking for anybody I can, you know, just to get out in the woods again.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And
Plus, I mean, let's face it, there's probably nothing. I mean, it's rewarding to kill, but, like, if you have your kids or, you know, somebody close to you or something, it's hard to even compare that to anything.
Yep.
You know, when they kill, even if they don't kill, you know,
Yeah.
they get the experience, which,
Right.
you know, here in Pennsylvania, I mean, I remember turkeys being more plentiful, to be honest with you. And I know that has something to do with the predatoration. It's higher, and the kill rate's higher. But at the same time, I have seen some other stuff, and I don't really want to get into this part of it, but about, you know, there's a lot more clear cuts now, and the turkeys are having a hard time getting off the ground quicker, and some other stuff like that. And that makes sense to me, you know. And I know the rain season, and there's some other stuff that comes into play, but I think it's harder now to kill birds in Pennsylvania than it was 10, 20 years ago. I really do.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
The population, you can just tell it's way down.
Yeah.
And like I would still say in this area here, we still have a decent population.
Mm-hmm.
Now we hunt the Allegheny Mountains a lot, or Allegheny National Forest, and my brother, I give him the most respect in the world when it comes to turkey hunting because he kills a turkey up in the mountains every year.
Yeah.
And it's tough. I mean,
impressive.
And I don't get to go up as much as I used to because we're kind of, prior to this, I got 3 little kids and stuff like that, so I'm just not able to get up there as much as I was, and I was shooting some competitive archery stuff, so I'm gone a lot. But I try to go up there at least once a year, one day to hunt up there, and I mean, there's a lot of times up there you put on 10 to 15 miles in a day,
right,
and you don't hear one gobble.
True.
Now I will say when you do get a bird up in the mountains to gobble, you usually kill that bird because it probably hasn't been hunted.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I can remember being like 16, 17 years old in Potter County, which is in northern Pennsylvania, and like you could stand on one ridge and owl hoot, and it was like there were 2 or 3 birds that gobbled on every ridge top.
Yeah.
And like in the morning, the woodpeckers are going, the birds are chirping, and it's just like a gobble frenzy everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And now you go up there, and like you said, you're lucky to hear one turkey.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough, and
and I don't want to see this area where we live, where we're able to hunt every day. I don't ever want to see it get to that point. Because it's not as much fun whenever you're putting on 15 miles a day and you don't hear a gobble, and you do it 3-4 days in a row like that.
I think that's the best part of turkey hunting.
Yeah.
Being able to go out and hear them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, like when we're turkey hunting, you want to go out and you want to hear a gobble.
Yep.
I mean, it's as simple.
That's a good day when you get there.
Yeah, like that.
When they call back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's as simple as that. You want to go out, you want to hear that gobble, and you want to call to it and chase after it or whatever,
Yeah.
So when you go out, and I'm not saying like you can go out turkey hunting and still enjoy the woods and being out there, obviously, but you want to hear that gobble.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, if I go out in the woods and I don't hear a gobble, like we were talking about before we come on, sometimes I just want to sit there, and be at peace or whatever. And I shot turkey like that. You call in the morning and you don't think nothing's going to happen, and you're kind of dozing off, and you're okay. Here we go. A little live action here, but let's touch on. I'd like to touch on calling too much. I feel like that's because it's exciting, right? And he ain't calling back. I'm gonna call again, right? I'm gonna call again. And like you said, we did touch on the volume. Jed, if you want to touch on like just calling too much, when do you think like okay, like let's lower back here a little bit and kind of see what the bird's doing?
I always just take the bird's temperature and see where he's at or they're at. If you have a mixed flock, more often than not, it seems like lately I'm seeing more turkeys come in groups. But anyway, with that, I just kind of gauge where they're at vocally, what they're doing. When I hunt, I personally try to call as little as possible. I mean, how many times you see it, if you can visualize and see what the turkeys are doing, and they're coming through the woods, you let out a series of yelps or cuts, and then the turkey stops and struts, and that's just more time that you're wasting that turkey's not walking towards you. So
right.
I like to hear turkeys gobble as much as the next guy, but that every situation's different. Sometimes you need to keep that bird fired up,
right?
And it's hard because I personally prefer a timber hunt. I want to be hunting them in the timber. Not that I'm opposed to killing them in the field, but I'm going to go where the turkeys are at. But just based off where I've been hunting recently, it's pretty much all timber. So that's how I do it. Not saying that's right, but I think it has worked for me, and stick with what works.
Yeah, and I would say, you're exactly right. You're older though, so you have a little bit more patience now, I think. So
I could be better in that department.
me and Nate, we're always looking for that horny 2-year-old.
Right. I understand. I get it.
We go to that spot. If they ain't gobbling, we run to the next spot, and we put a pile of miles on.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking about that to a degree. What you said is exactly right. You're just taking that bird's temperature. There's some birds. I'll use my brother again. The guy just loves cutting birds. I mean, he just cutting. And those birds, they come running up over the hill. But I'll tell you what, though, they know where he's at when he's cutting because he's calling so much too. When you're calling too much, that bird knows exactly where you're at. And he sets up so when those turkey poke up over the bench, they peek and they do one little look, and as soon as they look, if they don't see that hen up on that bench where he's sitting, they're right back down. So he's as soon as they poke their head up and he sees it's a gobbler, he's pulling the trigger right there.
I do want to stop you right there because you just brought something up that I was going to get into, and that is what I have seen personally when I'm hunting. Right, is I will set up on birds and always try to set up on birds that are below me, okay? And I'm able to call them up the hill. Now, I have found, for me, I've talked to other turkey hunters that I think are good turkey hunters, and they have been able to call birds down to them, right? I have not yet been able to do that. So that's something I want to touch on. Is that something that you guys are able to do pretty often, get a bird to come downhill to you, or do you try to set up above the bird?
I always try to set up above the bird or at the same level as that bird.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good rule of thumb. But a hunt that I was part of last year, that turkey came from that we were pinned. We couldn't get above it, and it ended up that we had hens on the hillside that had we tried to pursue that turkey and get above them, we would have got busted. So that gobbler came a long ways down a very steep hill.
How much did you call to that bird?
Fair, and a fair amount. And the nice part of that was I had a nice conversation with a hen, one of those hens that was on the hillside. She came down and it was just the perfect back and forth. She obviously helped. It's always good if you have a real hen right there near you. But, obviously with her hearing me, she started to get a little bit more fired up than she probably normally would have been.
Right.
And, it was a nice hunt. I've had other turkeys that have come downhill, but I agree. If you have the option, I would want to be on the same level or slightly above him if I can get there.
Yeah, I think, if you can be on the top, obviously you've got the advantage of hearing as well. Yeah. So you can hear a little bit better. And, like you said, generally they come up the hill. That's what you hear everybody saying. But I think one thing about it is, were you in the timber?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that has something to do with it, too. Are you in open country where they can see down into that bottom?
Okay.
Or are you in the woods where it's thick and they got to come down to investigate? Because if they don't know, if they can't see you down there, or if it's thick enough that they have to come down and push a little deeper to come check you out, then you might have the shot.
And that's why I think personally is why I try to step above a turkey. Think of have you done, deer drives before, especially up in the mountains, okay? So you're in the timber. When you're walking around a bench on that deer drive, you look down, you can see forever.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's why I think you want to set up above them, because whenever you're at the bottom of that bench and you look up, you can only see, 30, 40 yards. But if you're at the top bench looking down, you can see the next bench down below you 150 yards. So I think that's why you want to set up above a turkey.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because of it's all their vision. And the thicker the timber, I think it's better nowadays too.
Right, because they have to come in. They got to come.
They can't.
They got to
see.
be right on top of you to see if that hen's right around that tree. Where if they're out in the field and you're calling over there and they're like, "Well, I can't see anything,"
And that goes back to your, the question you started with about overcalling. And I think that's where, when you are overcalling, that bird, he can pinpoint exactly where you're at. So if he's up above you looking down, He's looking. He's like, that hen should be there, and he's just standing up there waiting and waiting and waiting. You hear a lot of guys say, "Oh, that bird hung up at 70 yards." He's there. He doesn't see what he wants to see to commit the rest of the way, and that's where having another guy with you double teaming a bird comes in handy a lot of times.
Oh yeah, setting up behind you.
I mean, that's I would say and as like a new hunter, that's one of the biggest mistakes I made so many times. You that bird's there gobbling. He shuts up for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and it's like you're calling every 5 minutes, and you wait a little bit, you're waiting, he's not answering you, and you're starting to get bored. You're looking at your clock, you're like, okay, I've been here for an hour now. You stand up, there he is, 60, 70 yards away. You couldn't see him, but he was able to know exactly where you were at and was just waiting to see the hen before he committed the rest of the way.
Right.
Because by nature, the hen goes to the gobbler. It's not the other. The gobbler doesn't go to the hen.
Right.
Yeah, and I've seen turkeys in the past too stand still for a long period of time. Like, you think of chickens and they're constantly moving, just everywhere, But I've witnessed turkey, like a longbeard, just out there at 70 yards, just standing there, 10, 15 minutes,
just on alert, just looking.
Yep, just looking.
Like he got his comfort level. And
and he's just like, standing there, just looking, and it's like, I think there's something to that, where they're just standing there and you don't see anything because you can't see the movement or anything like that, but then you go to stand up and there they go.
And that's when you give up on that bird and you go find that 2-year-old.
Something else there too we touched on earlier, if you have that, we talked about guys calling too loud. If you can tone it down and if you tone the calling down enough to make it sound like you're further away than you really are, you might be able to pull a few extra 20 yards out of that turkey, and get him in range.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like when you're calling, like when you've got a bird that's coming in or interested in coming in, and you're just doing those little, purrs and clucks and things like that, and they're still gobbling, they're coming.
Yeah.
So like, whenever you can locate a turkey by just calling soft, I feel like you've got a way better chance of actually bringing that turkey in versus just walking on a ridge top calling as loud as you can. You hear one gobble, but it's like, okay, I heard him gobble, which is cool because then you can go after him.
Yep.
But, I think you've got a better chance of killing that turkey if you're calling just a little softer.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hit the hard stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and that's that's where you want to start too. Whenever you're making your first calls, say you're not hearing any turkeys gobbling.
Right.
You don't want to just, start wrenching as loud as you can. I like to start as soft as I can and just, you're hoping one's close enough that they hear it and they gobble. And then, I slowly work into it where I keep on, raising the level, the volume of what, where I'm trying to get a turkey to gobble. And, sometimes you get one to gobble, sometimes you don't, but I would definitely start soft and then work my way up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's something too, like I guess this is kind of a little off topic, but, I think there's something too, like, a lot of times you'll hear guys say, like, when they're coming in, just completely shut up. And, like, that's totally true. You know what I mean? You're sitting there, you're just silent, and that bird's just, you can hear him coming, like you can hear him drumming or things like that, but you can't exactly pinpoint him. If you can be calling soft and getting him to gobble, you know where he is when he's going to pop up over that knob. Because if I'm set up this way, and I'm like, he could be anywhere, and he pops up right here, the chance of me killing him are slim to none.
Right.
So if you can be calling soft, like I have a good balance, and I'm not talking like over calling, but just like soft little calling that way he's gobbling just to give you that last gobble before he's in view. So you're like, okay, boom, here he is, there he is, and you got him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's like the bird Simon killed last year in a way, the bird was hot in the morning. It was the youth day, and he came in above us off to our left, and we couldn't get a shot at him up there. It was thick as could be, and I turned my head real slow, and I just changed the sound to make it sound like it was down the hill from where I was calling from that tree, and that bird he just instantly
just straight down
the hill and ended up getting a shot at him then. But I would definitely say that the less calling, so you're not giving up your location to that bird, is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, and like you hear guys say about like throwing the sound, where they put their hand and they kind of throw the sound. And like that was the prime example of it, because you turn your head, and when that bird came down in front of you, I mean, he came down, he was going right to where you were projecting that sound.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see.
I think that's why, when you have somebody sitting behind you, right, the bird's looking through you. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You're calling and you're 30, 40 yards behind your buddy or whatever.
Their attention's a little bit past you.
It is. And you're just kind of just got to set still. And next thing you know, they're at the end of your barrel or whatever. And yeah, so I think if you hunt as a team, you can really do some damage tag teaming birds. But what about weather? Do you guys think that weather changes the way the birds act in any way? Because I feel like I always see birds out in fields in the rain, and I have a theory on this, and I it's just a theory, but I feel like that the predation of them is so high that they can't hear very well when they're in the woods and it's raining. So they'll get out in the field and kind of get, hey, all eyes on deck here.
Yeah, that's a good theory for sure.
No, I definitely believe that.
Something I always thought of too is, you see them out in the fields, like maybe, I don't know if they're eating more of, the worms, things like that,
the
that generally
fields that time of the year.
That generally come out, from the rain. So they could be doing that too. I think it could, chalk it up to be quite a few things.
Well, think of yourself deer hunting, whenever you have a heavy downpour, that's when deer sneak up on you because you can't hear them walking.
Right.
So I think a turkey at that point, they're using their eyes as their
Number
their
one.
advantage,
Right.
and that's why they go out in a field because there's 3 or 4 of them, and they're looking all around every direction, and they're able to cover themselves 360 at that point.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they're out in the fields. But at the same time, like you said, the worms are coming up; they're able to feed.
Yeah, we were talking about it the other day, like, a good gobbling day. What's a good gobbling day? Is it like a nice sunny day, or is it kind of like the other day it was raining, like drizzling a little bit, and the birds were going crazy, right?
Right.
So it's just like what, and
Don't give up my spot.
So Brian kind of said about like he really likes hunting like if you've got like a cold day, like a cold or rainy day, but then the next day is nice,
warms up 15
20 degrees, like those birds are like,
I feel like they gobble better.
Ready to
But
roll.
if you think about it too, like you ever pay attention to social media, and you'll see a day like you may kill a gobbler, and then you'll see a bunch of guys posting pictures that same day. Like what was it? What was it that made that day special compared to maybe the day before? You know? And if you watch that, you'll see that because I help with a hunter cooperative survey that a friend of mine put on, and you see the feedback after the season, and they compile all the info, and it's amazing. Like there's pockets where, and it's covering the whole state, and it's like those certain days, the numbers are up, and I guess you can look back and say, okay, well the barometric pressure was here, this and that. But I've been out days that were absolutely beautiful, like bluebird, beautiful, sun shining. Didn't hear a thing.
Well, I was just going to say that, like, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this or not, but like when I was like, years of growing up turkey hunting and things like that, I would attribute my worst days to like warm, sunny days. And like, I always liked that. And this is just me. This is just like experiences that I've had over the years, but I always like those chilly mornings, where it's like, here in Pennsylvania, maybe it's like 40 degrees in the morning or something like that. And, and then like you'd have gobbling, for a while really good, but then it warms up real fast to, 60, 70 degrees. The sun comes out and it seems like it kind of, like for me, it seemed like they kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I've had days where it was like overcast, kind of chilly all day, and I've had better gobbling on days like that. And like I can remember 2 years ago, I had a day, it was pouring down rain, and I was like, I hiked like 3 miles in, and I'm like, what am I even doing out here? And I'm standing there like contemplating why I even came out in the woods, and I heard a gobble. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I walked out to like this old strip mine, and I looked out, and this longbeard was just out there just cruising. And I yelped at him like 3 times, and I mean, he came running in, and that was a day when it was downpouring.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I like personally, I like hunting those like colder, maybe a little overcast or, the sun breaking through versus like just like a warm, like, 70 degrees sunshine day.
Yeah.
So
You wonder though too, as I'm sitting here thinking about that, like you attribute that to early season. It's colder weather.
yeah,
It's also the early season. There's been less people in the woods.
Yeah,
There's less
that's
pressure.
true too. Yeah.
There's just so many things that go into it. The peak breeding's probably
Right,
over
I
at
was
that
just gonna
point.
say.
That's true, because like if you have a day where it gets to 70 degrees, it's probably
It's
later in the
later- it's
season.
later in the
yeah,
season.
so that's true. I mean,
Obviously,
good point.
You're going to kill more birds early in the season. I guarantee. I mean, I haven't ever looked at statistics, but if you did, I would guarantee that the
First 2 weeks.
first 2 weeks are your
Yeah.
best 2 weeks. But you are going to kill usually those older birds later in the season.
Right.
That's whenever you kill the ones
Yeah.
with hooks on them.
Right.
For the most part, it's been that way for me.
They're still around for a reason. So if you fool one of them, good
Yeah.
on you. You did something,
Mhm.
that everybody else couldn't do. Especially like you were talking, if you're on public land, my hat's off to you turkey hunting in Pennsylvania, because, I mean, between us and I would say for turkey, I was thinking like the deer, but you're in one of the top tier states. There's hunters everywhere. They're turkey hunting. There's a lot of out of state hunters that come here, which is great, but it's also harder on the hunter, right?
Right.
So, yeah, if you're killing birds on public land, I'm not saying that they're easier to kill on private, because we have a good bit of property, and we have birds too, and they're hard to kill, but at the same time, I have posted signs, so
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but when you're able to I get out. I'm usually able to hunt till 8:00 when I have to get my kids on the bus.
right,
And during the week, public land isn't hit as hard as what
true.
what you'd
On
think
a Saturday,
it is.
right?
Yeah, if you're on a Saturday, you're gonna run into guys.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Right, no doubt.
And that's kind of, I usually hunt during the week on public, and then on a weekend I usually try to find a private piece if I get permission from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think if you can find a piece of private ground that nobody's really touched, you've got a better chance of killing a turkey. But at the same time, if you've got private ground around here, there's probably nobody hunting that ground.
Right.
You might have a bigger flock of turkey on there. Therefore, you might be competing with more hens. Because I know I've done that in the past, where I've had some private ground that I've hunted, and in the springtime the flock was still 18 to 20 turkeys, and it's well, good luck with that. Good luck calling those longbeards off of those 15 hens.
Right.
So it's, I don't know. I think it's still tough.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's hunting anything. I don't care if it's not a fenced in deer farm or a fenced in turkey farm. Turkey pen, and it's going to be hard. They're wild animals, right?
Right.
A lot of people. Just to touch on something else real quick, the elk in Pennsylvania, they get a bad rap. People are like, oh, those are people's pets. Yeah, they might seem like it in the rut, but go up there and try to hunt them. They're wild animals, right? They have a will to live. So
There's the comments you see whenever somebody kills one of those elk. You kill
Yeah.
one of those elk. They're so funny. That was Muffin. He was Muffin would eat from your hand. I can't believe you'd shoot him.
Right.
I'm like, I would never kill a PA elk for that reason. You just get on the PA Game Commission Facebook page and you just get bashed.
You get hate mail.
Yeah.
People will be sending you letters for.
It's like you
for a
killed their
year.
dog.
Yeah, you killed their pet.
right.
Like, send
It's
you
crazy.
envelopes of anthrax.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is a really tough state to hunt these birds, but that brings me into the next subject. Is travel hunting something that you guys have thought of? Is it something that you guys do? Do you go to any other states to do any turkey hunting?
Well, we have
Yeah.
a little bit.
You've been successful. Well,
I haven't in a long time, but
Okay.
I used to.
yeah. I haven't been able to. So I shot competitive archery all across the U.S. So it's just a lot of travel and a lot of time away from the family, and that was my vacations. You know
Right.
what I mean? It was almost every other weekend you were traveling to a different state to shoot. So I haven't got out too much. A couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, me and my nephew and his buddy, we went down to West Virginia, and just looked at some maps and found some areas, and again just put boots on the ground and scouted for one hard day. And then the season came in, and we didn't get on any birds the first day, but then again just putting your time in, we went out, and my nephew ended up roosting some birds, and he ended up I think they missed a bird that day. And then we went back in the next day, and they heard birds on another hill right beside it. And they're like, do you want to go after the bird we went after yesterday? It was up there gobbling again. So I went in there, and I ended up killing that bird. And my nephew and his buddy, I think they fired 6 shots, and they got him. But, yeah, that was, so, we have had some success. But, again, it's it wasn't easy. I mean, yeah, we're looking at Onyx, and we're finding spots we can get into, but that first day, I put on close to 15 miles hiking in and just trying to find turkey sign. And, I saw, turkey sign, but I didn't hear a gobble that first day. And when you walk that far, it's like, man, is there a turkey around here?
Right.
And do you stay in that spot or do you try somewhere new, And, it's definitely fun, and.
Yeah. We went to Virginia.
Yeah, that was a lot easier.
We went to Virginia last year, and we hunted some private ground down there, and
yeah,
that was an experience.
Yeah,
compared to here in Pennsylvania, like hunting the mountains here in Pennsylvania versus hunting down there in the I guess the flat ground. We were in
Flatlanders.
we were in Southern Virginia.
Yeah, my buddy Joe, he had like 3 leases down there that he let us hunt, and and it was so weird. There was lakes everywhere, and we didn't know what we were getting into. Like, he didn't tell me where we were able to hunt. Never sent me any maps or anything. We just showed up at like what time we got there.
We drove all night.
We drove all night. Got there at like 3 a.m. and met him in his driveway, and he drove us over to this lease. And
here you go.
He's like, "Yep, you can hunt this lease here." And we're like, "Okay."
But we heard birds.
We heard birds, and I missed a bird.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you were going to say that or not.
I don't know. I missed a couple birds last year. Here I am ripping on my nephew for them missing birds.
Yeah.
And
It happens.
I was hunting with a 410 last year, and after I missed my second bird, I went back to my 12 gauge.
Yeah.
That was cool though. That, like, being down there, that experience was pretty cool. Like Brian was saying, like, lots of lakes with all these fingers. Like, these lakes would have these fingers, branching out into the woods, and like you'd be on one chunk of ground calling, and a bird would answer you on the other side of the lake. So we were like trying to get around to the other side, and by the time you get around, you were trying to relocate the bird. And on top of that too, like, here in the mountains, you're standing on a ridge and you call, and the birds that you hear are generally on the mountain you're on, or they're on the opposing, the other mountain. So, you can really kind of pinpoint where that bird is. Down there, it was flat, and like
lots of vegetation too.
Yeah, and like you would call, and then the bird would gobble, and you were like, I don't know if it's 50 yards or 300 yards. Like, yeah, like I don't know.
And something to add to hunting out of state, being that like we're woods hunters, I haven't carried a decoy with me since I was probably 16 years old.
Right,
I could tell you the last time I used one, I had this old foam decoy, and a bird. It looked so fake. I think the turkey, the gobbler, like saw it and it just ran away.
Thought it was one of the 3 Mile Island turkeys.
Yeah. So I haven't used a decoy since I'm probably 16 years old.
Yeah.
But down there, I'll tell you what, there was a lot of field also, and those birds in the afternoons, they were heading out to those fields. Yeah. And being that we don't, again, I have nothing against killing a turkey out of a field, but had we had a decoy down there, I think we would have killed a turkey. They would have seen the decoy, and because they're kind of flocked up too down there.
They were,
like,
yeah.
A lot of 6 to 10 birds in a little group together still in the spring, and so when you're going out of state, you definitely want to adapt, and you don't want to be closed mind to how you hunt, because we should have changed our style. We probably should have just went to Walmart and bought a decoy.
Yeah.
Because we were fighting a losing battle. We're in the woods. You're not going to call the turkey into the woods when they're out there with 6 hens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100 yards out in the woods.
We've seen turkey out in the fields, and it's like we'd set up and
try to call.
We looked like idiots, but yeah.
That's just in general, though. You said about adapt. The last out-of-state hunt that I went on was 10 years ago, 2013. We went to South Dakota, and we didn't heed the advice of an individual told us, if you're going to go to South Dakota, do not go prior to May. And, our season starts in May, and we wanted an early jump. So we flew out to South Dakota mid-April. We got there the first day. It was in the 50s, and we went to bed, woke up the next morning to 16 inches of snow.
Oh
And it was such a buzzkill because, we left PA. It was 70 degrees. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like we went right back in time, back to the dead of winter. It was depressing.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to get up and go. And glad we did because, those turkeys are used to that. I ended up, I shot a gobbler the first morning, like 10 o'clock. We were on a piece of property that there was horses. It was an Indian reservation. I can't remember the whole deal, but there was an Indian reservation that had horses on it. And the turkeys had to come down. There was a guy that had come through earlier in the morning with a tractor dropping hay bales for these horses. And the turkeys had to get on the track of the tractor path to be able to maneuver through the snow. And, it was just one of those things where...
Hunting turkeys in funnels.
Pinching them up.
Yeah.
But, it ended up, I always thought it'd be cool to shoot a Merriam turkey, white tip tail feathers and all that.
I want one of the white-tipped ones.
Yeah. I still have a picture somewhere of me standing snow, above my knees with
cool,
turkey. And it's one of those things where, like I said, if it was totally up to me, my ass would have been in a hotel room till the snow, till I saw that, hopefully that the weather was going to get better. But it didn't. The whole time we were there was snow on the ground. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's. I just bring that up because there are other options. We have a great state for turkey hunting. We're very blessed, but that brings me to the point too that is there anything that you guys want to see changed within the laws and the regulations of the turkey hunting in Pennsylvania, whether it be Sunday hunting, whether it be moving the season, on the contradictory part of that. So there's the bad things you want changed, but also what's the good, right? What is something that you feel like we're doing right? And whoever wants to take that's more than welcome.
We talk about it all the time, but a lot of guys say that the northern states are too late. They come in too late. Our season doesn't start till May. But I think that is the reason why we still have a good population in this area, and that's because the birds are getting a chance to breed. And I was guilty of it where there was a time where I was like, our youth season, it's a week prior to our regular season. You go out that day, birds are gobbling everywhere. It's the best day to be in the woods, and it's great that it's the youth day because it ultimately gives the kid the best chance to kill turkey. So when I was younger, I was very guilty of I wish they would just move the season 2 weeks ahead so that way the birds are gobbling and we can, but at the same time, there'd be a lot more turkeys killed.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the way that it is right now, coming in May, it's giving, the birds a chance to breed. And, it's giving them a chance to maybe cool off just a little bit. And, and we're still killing turkey. So
something I would like to see it go back to one tag for a little bit, personally. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't know if you guys remember 15 years ago, when I was in high school, I guess I was longer than maybe 20 years ago now, pushing 20 years. It was a blast because you heard turkey, you touched on it earlier up north. We go out at night and you're 5 miles back in on a mountain road and you'd give an owl hoot and literally on every point you heard 2 to 3 gobbles and it's like, oh, which one am I going to go after tomorrow? There was no issue. You go out now, you don't hear a gobble up there. And, so for me, I would like to I don't want to see it get ruined around here. It's still good, and I'm not saying it's going to get ruined by everybody killing 2 birds, but take somebody out. Kill a bird, and if you want to go, keep on hunting, take somebody out that you like, and, I'm not against it either. I'm not saying, you shouldn't do it, I've killed 2 birds in a season in Pennsylvania, and, I've had the thought, I buy 2 tags just so I can keep on hunting, but I'm not always going to shoot a second turkey, and that's probably what I would have to say.
Yeah, I mean, you think I think I read an article somewhere that said the reason that they can still give 2 tags is because by the time that turkey season rolls in, a lot of those gobblers have already bred. So you're not really affecting the population by shooting 2 longbeards. But at the same time, if you didn't kill that second bird, did it have a chance to live to the next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I think there's some truth to that, but I also think that it's not. You know what I mean? Like, if you could shoot 2 bucks, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe the buck's already bred the doe, but if I wouldn't have shot that second buck next year, he would have been a 3 or 4 year old buck instead of a 2-year-old buck, you know?
Yeah.
So
Plus your turkeys can get some age. You know,
Yeah.
people are unaware how long a turkey's lifespan can
I think
actually
there was
be.
one up in Clearfield recently, a hen they had tagged that was 11 or 13 years old.
Right, yeah, they can. Yeah, I think it was 13. I just read about that not too long ago.
Nuts, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, birds, you know, it's not that uncommon for people to shoot birds that are 6, 7 years old, you know. And that's, I mean, in the woods, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you think about the predators that they have.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's gunning for them.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
you know, all in all, I think the Pennsylvania Game Commission has actually done a really good job of wildlife management. You know, for all species. You know, there's some, you know, we're losing our grouse and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I wish there was like a bounty on raccoons and predators or something, because last year hunting, I mean, I saw more raccoons in the woods than I ever have, and I came upon quite a few nests last year, and you know, the eggs weren't hatched; they were smashed. you know?
Smashed, yeah.
So, you know, I definitely think predation is one of the biggest reasons for the decline in the turkey population, and I think it's kind of everywhere, you know.
I agree. I think it's the nest predators is the biggest hit on the turkeys. Is, you know,
I don't even think it's the coyotes. Everybody thought the coyotes were
No.
doing it, and I don't personally believe.
I think they play a part.
they
but-
do. They, you know, you can't say that they don't
Right.
kill turkeys
Yeah.
because they do, but
But they're not killing 30 eggs. They're probably not eating, you know.
Right.
exactly. Like you know, the moment that hen lays those eggs, I mean, with raccoons and possums and everything else around, they don't stand a chance.
Snakes.
Yeah, I mean, they don't stand a chance. So
Yeah, there's some talks of, you know, some more reintroduction of some more predator animals in Pennsylvania, and I'm all for to see, you know, what benefit that is to the woods of Pennsylvania. But I gotta say, I feel, and I'm really curious that it comes down to the turkeys for me. You know,
yeah.
you know, like you said, the rough grouse, we're very lucky and we're very blessed on our property for whatever reason. They seem to like it there, and we have them, and it's great. You know, I can shoot a couple a year or whatever, and I don't get too heavy on killing them because it's one of them things. And I just love whenever they scare the shit out of you, and you're like,
Oh yeah.
you know, and they're just cool. They're a cool bird, but what point do you stop reintroduction of certain things? You know, like I think the fisher's a good example,
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that was like the elephant in a room there for that second, because they're around now, right? I mean, I can remember whenever people were like, "Well, a fisher," and that was like kind of wild. And I remember the first time I seen one, I'm like, "What the hell is that?" You know?
I've seen a few of them now.
Right now, yeah, it's getting to be a lot more common. Same thing with I don't know about you guys, but the bobcats. We got lots of bobcats.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, I would think, like you were saying, I think that they would probably be more a predator on like the polyps than the nest. You know, no, of course if they find a nest, but I think that they get wiped pretty good. I seen a turkey family that is not real far from where we work, and I seen them all the time. And she went from having like 14 to 6. I mean, in a hurry, like 2 weeks time frame. Now, luckily, it seems like that those ones have survived, but I don't know what the exact mortality rate is on them. But I know that they don't.
It's not good.
They don't do very well.
No.
And it is unfortunate that they have to freaking lay their eggs on the ground. Too bad they're in a tree, because we probably wouldn't have to be having this discussion. But
Right.
yeah, I think the Pennsylvania Game Commission does a good job. I agree with where our season comes in for the facts that you guys stated. What I would like to see would be the Sunday hunting, just personally, because, you know, I'm a busy guy. You know, you guys have kids, you know, I mean, even if you did youth, right? You do something, you set it up so that you're leaving time to get the guy or the kids in the woods, right? The kids go Saturday, dad goes Sunday, mom, whoever's hunting, right? I think it's coming, personally. I really do. But even if you just did, I don't know, private land, something, because there are some states that do some weird things like that. But something, you got to, I feel like But it's to each is their own.
Oh yeah, and I can see both sides on that. We don't need to go into detail about it, but I can see both arguments on that. And I'm neither for nor against because I do see both sides. So
yeah, and a guy like myself, I'm able to go hunting every morning of the week, and I don't want to be greedy and say no, they shouldn't be allowed to hunt Sundays.
Right.
They're paying for a license.
Right.
They don't have many opportunities to hunt throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think guys, personally, am I going to hunt on Sundays? I might not. I'm going to head to church in the morning. I'm still going to do my daily routine. And if I want to go hunting or, deer hunting, turkey hunting, then I'll go out after church. But, the guys that are, don't go to church or, that's not their main priority on a Sunday, why not let them hunt,
Right.
And again, I think whenever guys are saying don't, they shouldn't be able to hunt, it's just because most people are greedy. They're going to do whatever benefits them to the best.
Right. That's human nature.
Yes. And so that's, I hope Sunday hunting does come in,
Yeah. I think it's a matter of time. And like you said, I feel like just personally, and then we'll move on, but guy doesn't want to go hunting. I want to sit around, watch football, drink beer, do whatever else you're doing. And I get it. So then he's not self-conscious of the fact that she could probably be in the woods, and they're not, right? Because it's like that. Oh, I should be there, and you're not, and they just want to say, oh well, now these people that say that the deer need a break, the turkeys need a break. Okay, yeah, come on, the coyotes and fishers and all that. They don't forget that it's not, Sundays it's on too. So
right.
But I want to touch base on, what's the future hold for KLUK? What are you guys shooting for? What's the goal? Is it to expand? Is it to just bring more value to the hunter, right, if you will? Or just kind of what are you guys thinking moving forward?
I think the goal is to get everybody to a point that they want to be with turkey calling. And Brian and I, we build all the calls for the company, and we like it that way. We like quality. We want everybody to have a good quality mouth call. You see it all the time where you've got these companies that they keep growing and growing and growing and growing, and they get to a point where they can't maintain quality anymore. And that's something we never want to be at. We're not greedy people. We're here to make sure that you as a hunter are getting the best quality product that you can have. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think the idea is to just get everybody feeling comfortable with a turkey call. You know what I mean? And that's why we came out with the 3 stretches, is because we want everybody to feel confident calling, when they're calling turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had guys, people in the industry to say, you guys are idiots for carrying, we're really carrying 60 calls,
Right.
So if you know how hard it is to actually maintain 60 calls during busy season, right now what's going on, our day consists of waking up early. We get our kids on the bus and stuff, and we're in the shop from about 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock. And then we go home, spend a few hours with our kids, and Nate usually comes back down about 8:30 at night, and we work till midnight every night.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for 7 days in a row, or 7 days a week for the past 2 months now.
Yeah.
And
the joys of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's great. It honestly, it's been an unreal year for us. It's been unexpected, but definitely welcomed. Awesome. You know what I mean? We're shipping calls across the country. What else could you want? And
makes you feel good.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And we're getting feedback, great feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are, they're appreciating the quality. They're appreciating that, Brian and I are building the calls, and they can see the quality in it. And a lot of guys are loving the stretch options because they're their eyes are open to it now.
And we're still looking to grow. We're still in the early stages. Of
for sure.
Of the of the company, and
yep.
We would love to bring on somebody like Jed in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Jed knows how to build a turkey call.
Yep.
If we can get a couple, I'm not saying you can't train somebody to build to make a turkey call, because you can, but it'll always be in house. Our calls will never be outsourced and somebody else building them for us.
Consumer direct.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
So.
You can go look at my blems that I have on all my calls. You know, I'm OCD when I'm cutting my cuts, and if they don't meet my standard.
Most of the calls that I'm running are ones that
those are the calls we run.
They're his blems, and I look at them and I'm like, this isn't a blend. He's like, yes, it is. It's got, look at that. It's that batwing side's a little uneven. I'm like, all right, and I put tape on it and use it for myself. You know what I mean?
But that's the quality that I want to put out there. You know, every call's being stretched on a dial, and you know, the cuts are very quality looking. We take some extra steps, but we think is helping to keep the tape on the frames better. So it takes us longer to build turkey calls, and we're not afraid to admit that, you know, but we're trying to push out really good quality calls.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing here is it's awesome. And, you know, sitting in a shop, I can just feel it. You know, it's funny how that works, but you get around people that believe in the things they're doing. And I understand. I know where you're coming from. And I feel like you guys are to the point now in your lives where, you know, you don't just do shit for yourself anymore, right? You get more value out of doing things that help others. And, you know, that's included with your business here. So before we go, I do want to do 3 stories, all right? And it's going to be one from each of you guys. And that's going to be memorable turkey hunt. All right, so you got to give me first one that comes to mind, because as soon as I say that, you're probably like, oh, that time I missed that turkey at 10 yards.
I already gave you mine.
All right, I got one.
Let's hear it.
So I think I was probably 16, and I was hunting with a good buddy. We were hunting down. My family has a camp with a couple acres, and we were always allowed to hunt all the property around it. We were out there, hunted all morning, heard a couple gobbles, nothing crazy. And it was like probably 10:30 in the morning. We're like leaning next to a tree, taking a nap. Like, I think I had one of those old gobbler shaker calls, and I was reversing it so it sounded like a goose. Like, it was like, oh, you know, like pulling it the opposite way. We were done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we start to walk out. We're walking out across this like old strip cut. We get up to the top edge, and my buddy AJ, he pulls out a call. He's like, this is old Krusty. That's what he called it. He's like, this is old Krusty. We're going to try this one last call. And it was the nastiest sounding pot call that I've ever heard. Like, I don't think it sounded anything like a turkey. And he yelped on that thing 3 times, and a bird answered right where I was just goosing that gobble call. And we're like, are you kidding? Like, we kind of looked at each other like, is this for real, you know? And it was one of them turkeys that, like, started just gobbling. Like, he was looking for us. You know what I mean? We didn't even make another call, and he was, like, running, gobbling at us, trying to get us to answer him. We jumped down in the weeds, and we're sitting in the weeds, and I got the gun up. And I don't think we even made another call. And this gobbler is running across the field through these high weeds. And he stepped up at 30 yards, and I shot it. And we were like, what just happened? You know, like old Krusty came through with that call. But I can remember that. Yeah, that's the first one that popped into my mind.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I'll touch on one of my stories real quick. We were out and about, being young and dumb, and out drinking all night, you know, as a young man will. And I had sobered up, you know, earlier in the night, and took a little nap in the truck or whatever, and my buddies are, you know, they're inebriated, if you will, and it's time to go home. So we go home, and we got home, and my friends are all passing out, and they're like, where are you going? I said, I'm going turkey hunting. What do you mean you're going turkey hunting? You've been, you know, you were up. And I said, yeah, well, I'm ready to go, you know. So I got up in the woods, and I get against a tree, and all excited, you know, I'm calling, and I got a bird to answer me. Well, then that was it. Done. Right? Like someone hit a light switch. Maybe it was because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, or, you know, that's just sometimes how it goes. So, well, I'm just going to take a nap now, right? I'm too tired to walk around, so I close my eyes. And I wake up, and there's 3 turkeys right there. I mean, they're right in front of me, right? And I want to pull the gun up, and, you know, they seen me immediately. But it just goes to show you sometimes, yeah. And this was 3 or 4 hours after. Yeah. I mean, I was probably out for a while. But, hey, you can have a lot of fun in the woods whether you're killing them or not.
That's right.
So, do you want to add any stories, Jed?
Man, I'm trying to think. There's so many good memories
Right,
that you
for
have
sure.
that you.
That's what I'm trying to think in my head, like the best one, the best story I can
It's
tell.
it's really hard. It's really
It
hard.
is.
Sometimes the worst story is the one that you remember.
Yeah.
You know.
It's the misses. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
I'd have to
The
say
haunting.
for me, I used to go to Alabama with my dad. We'd go for probably 5-6 years in a row. We went, and the one year we went to a different state game lands, and we walked up this old fire break road, and we got to where it sort of cleared off, and there was this big, huge, steep mountain, and I put out a couple calls, and I could just barely hear a gobble, and I was like, am I hearing things? And my dad looked over at him, and he kind of had that look like he heard something too. And I said, did you hear something? He said, yeah. He said, I think it's way up on top of that hill. And when I'm telling you, before we went to Alabama, you hear Alabama, and I'm thinking swamplands and all
Right,
this. You
right.
know, a lot of people don't realize how mountainous
They have
Alabama is
mountains.
in northern Alabama. So I said, that's our only option. That's what we both thought we heard one. So we start trekking up, and we got to about halfway from the top, and the bird gobbled on his own, and he was up on top of a point, and there was a saddle, and I was like, we got to just set up here, because it was early in their season. There was no leaves on the tree. You could see forever. And I never in a million years thought that anything was going to work. We sat down. When you were sitting, like, you had to keep from sliding down the hill. That's how steep it was. And that turkey came from a very long way. And it ended up that my dad was able to shoot it. And after he shot it, he hooped and hollered. It was like, I don't know what it was. I think it was just the fact that it was such a deep mountain bird. You
Right.
know, like, you knew that turkey was a mountain bird. Probably, very seldom sees a human being. So the funniest part of it, though, is after he shoots, he starts hooping and hollering, and he takes off running because it's flopping down the hill. And he grabs that turkey, and most guys like pick the turkey up, by its neck or whatever. Well, it still has some life in it, and like, he's trying to figure out what to do. And I guess the first thing that came to his mind was he was going to give it an old haymaker. And I'm like, Dad, you don't do that. And like I said, he was never a big turkey hunter until
Right.
I got him into it. So
I can just picture your dad doing that.
yeah, it was definitely memorable, and
Some slang words coming out of his mouth.
yeah, he let some frustration out on that poor turkey.
Yeah.
It was a really good hunt.
Yeah. That's it, man. That's why we do it, right? We do it because of these memories, these memories we get, and they're ingrained with us forever. And like we were just saying, you have all the great memories, and sometimes they're hard to think on, but you think back to the misses, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
The
I
times-
can tell you about more misses than anything because
Right.
they're hilarious.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And
You
that's beauty in it all, right? We were saying, don't be afraid to mess up. Get out there, try it. If you don't like it, there's plenty of other things you can hunt other than turkeys. But also, guys like you guys are pretty open to somebody messaging you or getting a hold of you, right? And saying,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
hey, I need a hand. Or, some people just don't know what the hell they're doing, and they're just afraid. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I have so many people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to butcher my deer, but I don't know what I'm doing. Well, no problem, right? I can help you. Or even like cooking a turkey. You wouldn't believe how many guys are like, well, what do you do with it after you kill it? Well,
Yeah.
you eat it, and they're good.
Yeah, they are.
So it's really good that you guys are doing what you're doing here, not just for the business, but the aspect of the customer service. And I don't just mean that from buying something from you, right? Customer service comes with more than that. It's that you guys are local outdoorsmen, and you're okay with people reaching out and saying, hey, I could just use a hand, or hey, can I swing by and you can hear me call and make fun of me or whatever, and you can help me change this or that. So
Yeah, we get guys send us sound files all the time.
Yeah. We went down to the NWTF show this year, and it was our first year there, and my most memorable moment down there was talking to two guys that have never turkey hunted ever, And Nate's running the booth like a madman. I'm just over there hanging out. I talked to these two. They're two older guys from Tennessee, and I literally talked to them for a half an hour about everything from like start to finish. I was giving them as much information. They've never turkey hunted, and they wanted to start trying it. And I told numerous people now, like, that was the best moment I had down there. Just to be able to help those two guys out, and I hope they remember me and when they kill a turkey and send me a picture this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they will. That's how you leave an impression on people, and that's also the best advertisement that there is.
Yeah.
Hey, I talked to these guys, and they're just good dudes. You should get a hold of them, right? And that goes a long way. The word of mouth is
really
very
does.
very strong. It's very strong.
That's something I talked to Nate about before too. We're fortunate. Like we've killed turkey. I don't want to speak for you two, but I'm sure you have. But from the time we've been 12, there's probably not a year we've ever gone without killing a turkey. And you see guys sometimes. I keep on saying, you guys probably think I'm like a Facebook junkie, with all these comments. But you see
Someone's got to do the advertisement. Right? Yeah.
But you see guys, they're on there and they're saying, I've been hunting for 20 years and I've never killed a turkey before. And I'm just like, man, I would love to take that guy hunting, And
Yeah.
I've told Nate before, like, I think we ought to throw something out there. If you hunted for 5 years or more, put your name in a poll, and we're going to pull a name, and hopefully we don't get murdered in the
Some dude's wearing your skin around.
Hopefully we don't get murdered in the act. But I would love to, just seriously pull a guy's name, and if he knows a spot, I'm not going to, hate to sound rude, but I'm not going to take people to my public land spots because
we take kids there.
Take our kids and
things like that.
But
For sure.
And take them out and show them what we know, and hopefully we if it's within an hour or two of driving distance, and help somebody out to harvest their first turkey. And that's the kind of things like I look at and how I want to give back to people.
Yeah, that speaks volumes to, like you said again, just what you guys are doing here, because that's why you're there. Just speaking to people out there, that's why they're in this business. They're bringing value. It's not just, hey, we might make a buck, right? We all have to make a living, and that's just the way it is. But at the same time, there's a way to make a living the right way. And I think you guys are doing great. I think you're going to do great things, and everything you have here is really nice. And I kind of want to wrap it up here, but before we go, I want you guys to let everybody know where they can find you, right? How they can get a hold of you, and then also, how can they find your calls and buy them?
Go ahead, Nate. You think I'm the marketing guy because I'm on Facebook, but Nate's actually, he's the media guy. He's a lot better at it than me.
So, we have a website, www.kluckcustomcalls.com. You can get on there. It's, nice website. Shows everything, all the calls, box calls, pot calls, everything like that.
Or some leather pouches.
Yeah, we got leather call cases, leather turkey totes, and, social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Is there anything I'm missing?
Did you say Instagram?
Yeah, I did.
TikTok, we do a lot on TikTok. We do a lot of, short videos and stuff like that. How-to videos on there.
Yeah.
And we're going to have more stuff this year on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel that we're working on growing. And, for next season, we're hoping to have a ton of content on there for guys.
For sure.
But for right now, if you wanted to see, learn how to do something, learn how to purr on a mouth call, learn how to call from your diaphragm, we have thrown out some short videos on our TikTok.
Yep. You can email us, kluckcustomcalls@gmail.com. You can call us, message us. We're willing to talk to anybody. So,
Yeah, I wanted to add, you guys have more than we didn't touch on any of the other calls, but there's slate calls, right? There's box calls. So it's not just mouth calls.
Right.
Yep.
So there's lots of stuff on the website. You guys need to get on there. You need to check them out. Check them out here at KLUK Custom Calls. They're real local to me. Highly, strongly suggest that you get in and get a hold of these guys and give them a shot, give them a go, because they make some really nice stuff. So I thank you guys a lot.
Thank
for
you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Everything.
I hope you guys really enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And what I tell everybody is usually we'll check in with you here towards the end of the year, maybe fall turkey, or maybe going into next year into spring, and see how things went and how the hunting season was.
Awesome.
So, absolutely.
It was fun.
Okay.
You've made it to the end of another Keystone Chronicles podcast episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I think that these guys are great. I think that what they stand for and what they're going for over there is exactly what you should be looking for if you're looking to support a local call company that is making some badass shit. So with that being said, as I end every episode, please subscribe, comment, like. It helps the show. Guys, I greatly appreciate the support, and just keep tuning in, man. I love it. See you soon.